contacting individuals or small groups first, then the planet, or the entire planet all at once? If you'll be or will you be going with individuals, and could a group get together and be specifically prepared for contact? Can you tell us what steps to take?
Follow the formula. Again, raising your vibration to a certain level will allow synchronicity, the organizing principle, to determine exactly who and how many individuals will be involved in any particular moment of contact. It can be individuals, it can be groups. Most likely, it will eventually be your entire planet or the remaining population in the version of Earth that has shifted to the reality of contact. But again, these things are not completely determined at this time. But again, following the formula as precisely as possible will allow you to become more probably involved in whatever way is appropriate and relevant for those individuals at that time.
So basically, there will probably be some individuals that are contacted as individuals. There'll be some groups that are contacted. And specifically, it wouldn't necessarily be your people, but it would probably be other ET civilizations.
We will not be the first, but we will eventually join in. And again, the answer still applies. We may start with individuals, we may start with groups. It depends on the vibration at the time and what it is that your people have already experienced with regard to the first extraterrestrials that would initiate open contact.
So for like those groups that get together, say out in the desert or in other locations and look for ETs and specifically for the purpose of contact, that kind of repetitive behavior, could that heighten the potential for contact for that group?
Yes.
That sounds fun, and especially if everybody loves doing it, right?
Yes, really only if everyone loves doing it.
Mm. And how does first contact work on a global scale? For example, do aliens know all the different languages, and how do they go about contact based on the different cultures and tribes?
Different extraterrestrials may learn certain languages that belong in certain regions of your planet, or they may also use telepathic communication if the population is ready to receive such. There will be a variety of ways of communicating with individuals on your planet. Again, remember, certain kinds of contact will not occur until certain groups of individuals are ready for it, and being ready for it may mean that they are capable of receiving telepathic communications, and or, to make it simpler, sometimes, as we said, some extraterrestrials will learn the local language.
Can you share with us who will be the most likely species that we will have contact with first?
Most likely, Pleiadian species of different types. The ones that are closest to you genetically, your cousins, in a sense.
Is that true that Pleiadians seem to exhibit some of the most beautiful aspects of humans in terms of their visual appearance?
We understand what you mean by that, and I suppose the simple answer would be yes.
Okay. And if Bashar, the entity, is a collective, then upon open contact, will each major nation on Earth get its own Bashar clone to speak with?
No. Bashar, myself, is not a collective. I am an individual. I am telepathically connected to my species and many other beings, but I myself am not a collective in that sense that it was meant. Everyone will get their own representative, be it a member of my species or other species.
And will we see a lot of technological innovation and at an accelerated pace as contact gets closer and closer?
As contact gets closer, you will see some, and after contact, you will see more.
So will it act as kind of a triggering energy similar to like in 2001 A Space Odyssey?
Similar in some ways, yes. Again, remember, we have said that when you discover forms of life, either in your own solar system or elsewhere, based on your technology, your probes, your telescopes, so on and so forth, that will also start a trigger in the mindset that outside of your planet, life is possible. And therefore, that alone will change the mindset sufficiently to begin an acceleration and a refocusing and a perspective change in your society, or at least those that are aligned with that idea.
Would you say that 2033 is also going to be an important year for contact, for first contact?
Yes, and an special acceleration between 2033 and 2040.
Does the Interstellar Alliance have a post office? Is there a service that ET societies use to deliver packages between planets? And can you tell us Essani's intergalactic zip code and where their mailbox location is on Earth?
The idea of a post office does not exactly exist in the Interstellar Alliance. Sometimes, however, goods are traveled from one place to another on ships of a variety of types. Sometimes goods are simply created where they are needed immediately, depending upon the technology involved. The so-called zip code, as you call it, of my world is exactly the same as the phone number we have given you. A black background with a black equilateral triangle separated from the background by a deep blue light behind the triangle. This is the vibration that allows connection to our collective consciousness. In a sense, in what you call the North American region, am the so-called post office, since I am located above your Bell Rock in Sedona, Arizona. You could consider that location, because of my presence, a kind of hub for communication in the North American continent. There are others positioned in other places around the planet, and I suppose, using your language, they would be the so-called connection point, hub, or post office for those regions in communicating with extraterrestrial beings, not only from my own civilization, but with other civilizations as well.
Is there additional Essani beings or Sasani beings that are currently now placing themselves around the planet?
There are those that have been around your planet, as I have been above Sedona. There are some that are coming in, not yet here, some just placing, but there have been many that have been placed for some time, as I have above Sedona.
And what do you all do while you're up there and holding the energy or whatever else it is that you do while you're there?
Well, we are feeding different kinds of energy into the vortices in those areas to help balance out the idea of the collective energy of your world and make transitions easier, should you choose to align and match the frequencies we are giving off in those areas. At the same time, remember that time for us is not what it is for you. We can do many things and communicate with many different beings and be in many different places simultaneously, as it would appear to be from your perspective, even though to us, it may seem to be somewhat different.
Are there specific species that are monitoring what's going on at the nuclear silos and guess keeping watch to ensure that there's no accidents that would destroy our planet?
Yes.
Can you tell us which species?
No.
Let's see. When humans learn the true understanding of our planet's history, will our attitude towards crime and the ways of handling crime change from our perspective?
Potentially, this will start to occur before the idea of the history is revealed to your world. And remember, it will be the history of the moment.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, as we have said, every time you shift and change, you change your history as well as your so-called future, because everything exists simultaneously. And as you make a shift into a new version of you, both individually and collectively, you go into a parallel version of Earth that has a completely different history, the history that linearly would have been necessary for you to experience being a different person at this particular moment in the present. So when we reveal the idea, when we give you the gift of the history of your world, it'll be the history of the version of Earth that is making open contact. Not that there aren't other versions, but each version will have its own history slightly different from every other.
Does that mean that people of similar vibrations will hear the same history, whereas people of other vibrations will hear a completely different history?
Potentially, yes. Those of a similar vibration may hear a history similar enough that they can all agree that it is their momentary history. Others with different vibrations will hear different versions of history.
Is that also a symptom of what we're seeing on Earth now, where many people have their own version of reality that seems to have nothing to do with other people's versions of reality?
Yes, it is a symptom of the splitting prism.
And will the hybrid children, when they come here, will they exhibit less emotionality than we do?
Not less. They may not have the full range of emotions in the sense of negative ones, so to speak, but what they exhibit may actually be more full-bodied than even you typically as humans express.
The idea that humans express a lot of what could be called drama or emotional drama, will these children be less prone to those kinds of choices?
Yes. They will be more evenly balanced emotionally.
Okay, and when we're interacting with other ET species, what kinds of things will we do for fun? Like, we like to go out to lunch or go to a movie or those kinds of entertainment, and interacting with ETs, I would imagine, would be quite different than that.
It depends on the activity. Some extraterrestrials may enjoy joining humans in some of the typical activities on Earth, but there will also be other activities they will bring with them that humans may also learn to enjoy. I'm not going to give you a list at this time.
Okay, well, I guess somebody was asking, do ETs dance? I mean, will they enjoy dancing with us?
Many do, yes.
Okay. And one person was talking about an experience they had where they had a dream encounter, or potentially an actual encounter, with a mantis being,
Yes.
and they found it quite disturbing. But then when they drew a picture of it and sort of journaled on it, they actually found it to be quite fascinating.
Yes.
What would you describe as the process that's happening here that helps that person arrive at that?
Sometimes actually projecting it out in front of you in some way, shape, or form, like a drawing, can allow it to then be reflective to you in a different way, from a different point of view, a different perspective, so that it doesn't necessarily remain in the idea of your subconscious or unconscious mind, where you don't necessarily know how to relate to it. By putting it out in front of you, you can develop a different form of relationship with different beings. This is why we suggested, and still continue to suggest, the exercise of creating a cutout of different extraterrestrials, such as the Greys and hybrids and so on and so forth, and putting them outside your windows and doors, because by relating to them that way, as if they are truly physically there in your reality, but outside your house, you can begin to develop a different relationship that allows you to determine on your own terms when you are comfortable enough to interact with them more closely.
And can you skip this version of Earth and teleport yourself to a version that's already had contact? And why is this process so important?
This is the process that most of you have chosen so that you can develop a true appreciation for the manifestations of contact that will ultimately occur. Many of you simply wish to go through the process so that you are properly prepared. Many of you think you're prepared, but you're not, because we are very different than you might think. We are not some science fiction extraterrestrial that will simply land and be similar to you. Our vibrations are very different. Many species are very different from you, and preparation is necessary for the path that you have chosen in terms of your experience of physical reality. So do not be impatient. It will be worth the wait.